And, O Lord, in this holy place, may I worship Thee and behold Thy face. May I be transformed by Thy word and Thy Spirit, and behold the day of Thy power.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. And if you notice, the sun just came out for us. Yes. Well, this morning, as we get started, let's take a moment or two to hold some of our congregants in prayer. Annie Schulte, who had some surgery, doing well, but we want to keep her in prayer. Connie's mom is doing better. Everybody heard that? Millie is still in rehab. She doesn't have a phone by her choice. She'll be a couple more weeks, but she's doing well. John Nelson, please hold him. And our own Shirley Nichols, who's upstairs, who's going to get her hand fixed tomorrow. Yay. So let's hold those people in prayer for a moment or two. Say again. Helen doesn't have a car. Helen was in a car accident. She's fine. She's not here because she doesn't have a car yet. Her car was totaled. So that's why she's not here. She's not ill, but we can hold her in our consciousness too. So let's take a minute or two to do that, please. And we're going to begin today with the hymn, Surely the Presence. Are we doing both verses? Both verses. Okay, we're getting conflicting here, so we'll flip a coin. We'll go for two. It's inside your bulletin. Thank you, Augustus. If we would take a moment, please, to rise for our statement of being. And if we would repeat together, God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And on the back of your bulletin is our statement of purpose. The purpose of Unity East Church is to teach the universal principles of truth as taught and demonstrated by Jesus Christ and interpreted by Unity. Our mission is to rediscover the guiding spirit of God's presence within us and willingly demonstrate His creative purpose in our lives. Let's have a seat. Well, I think everybody's aware that we're into a new month. It's October. Our color is orange. Our flowers are orange. The power is zeal, and the disciple is Simon. The physical location, the back of the head. All of this is printed on your announcement page. Inside of this, we have the bonfire this Friday. Excuse me. The church will be supplying the hot dogs and the buns and the whoever's. I have one over there. Thank you. Oh, you got another one for me. Thank you. You're so kind. Excuse me for that. And we'll be doing s'mores. We're going to be doing a sing-along afterwards, and is he still on for us? Bobby George is going to join us for that with his guitar. So he's going to be the leader of our sing-along for the after bonfire. Now, if you would like to bring anything else, any chips or pop or anything, that's entirely up to you. I'm not even putting out a sign-up sheet. Just bring it if you want to. We'll have enough here. Hot dogs, buns, s'mores, drinks. But anything else, you're welcome to bring it. We have a vision board class coming up on the 12th. And there's a pretty detailed description of it here in the flyer in the bulletin. Ladies' luncheon, October 16th. Ladies, we're just going to go out to lunch after the service and just gab. Notice I said gab, not gossip. We're going to gab. It's going to be at Zorba's at 16 and Groesbeck. If you haven't been there, they do great breakfasts. So, and lunches too. But that will be on the 16th. Sign up, please. On the back of the vision board workshop, there's some other little bits of information. We're having a pasta dinner today after service. We're having the rest of the pasta that was frozen. And those of you that came for that dinner know how great it was. We're just asking for a love offering on that, so put in whatever you like. The choir's looking for people. The kitchen is looking for people. Outside cleanup, yeah, we're looking to get a crew together for that. Linda, are you still spearheading that? So if you have some time, availability, whatever, she laughs. I know. Hey, aren't the husbands always the last to know? Anyway, mastermind group, it meets at 9:15 every Sunday. You're welcome to join that. The Edgar Casey group on the second and fourth Sunday. Tai Chi classes. Wednesday, 1 o'clock here. Things for you to get involved with, things that are going on here at the church. Now, before we go on, we have a bunch of October birthdays. We have Nancy Morris. She's not here. Her birthday's actually today. Yeah, she's out celebrating. Joan Gully is on the 7th. Ann Schulte is on the 8th. Linda Geibel is on the 13th. Shirley, why isn't yours on here? Aren't you? Oh, that's right. I'm a month ahead. Wishing my life away. Let's do a happy birthday to those people.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, everybody. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
One last thing. Marion flashed at me, I forgot. I've already been to the store twice looking, with my book. Okay, as we get ready today for meditation, we have Reverend Kathy Long with us again today, and I will give a little more of an introduction later, but she will be doing the meditation with us. So let's clear our hands, clear our laps, get comfortable as we sing and pray our Lord's Prayer.
Temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
In a consciousness of these words that have been sung, we give ourselves permission to become open, receptive, more responsive to a consciousness of God right here, it's everywhere. And in this now moment, if you're comfortable doing so, you can close your eyes or find a peripheral focus, perhaps the candles at the front. Together we know that that which we call God, that which we call God, which is of many names and of no name at all, is here and is everywhere. The creative force, the power, the life, infinite creative intelligence, right here and everywhere. O thou of many names and thou of no name, together we are open, we are receptive, we are willing to know you more. We call forth this willingness as a zeal, as an enthusiasm, a curiosity, an intrigue, that we might know you in new ways this day. We pray that no matter our circumstance, no matter what appears to be so real in the outer, no matter what appears to be so real in our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, the inner, thou art here. Your power, your presence, your guiding wisdom right here. We allow ourselves to attune to this presence that we call God. We allow ourselves to be wakened by that which is God, this wisdom, love, enthusiasm for life, for living. We become still and quiet that we might feel or experience this presence as a still small voice, as a movement of energy, as a resting in energy. And we do this now, quietly, yet with attention, attentiveness. I am willing, O beloved one. I may not understand your voice, yet I am willing. In this willingness, I know that I can choose to trust, choose to have faith, that in my circumstance and in our circumstances, Thou art present as a wisdom to meet any and every situation, as love to guide each and every one of us in any and all circumstances. In my willingness to even embrace the unknown, I know beyond the shadow of any doubt that I and my brothers and sisters, all those that have reached for prayer, all those that have reached for support, all those that are hungry, all those that are in suffering, all those that are imprisoned in mind, in body, and even in spirit, that together we are guided by your infinite wisdom, by your infinite love. And I dedicate this prayer, I dedicate this willingness. Together here as a community, we dedicate this time, this prayer, that it might be of service to all. The water, the earth, the air, all living creatures, all living things, all across this earth. And in this wisdom of giving freely, willingly, we speak the ancient word that Jesus and many leaders, teachers spoke long ago. The word is Amen, and in the language of Jesus, Amen. To plant this vision in the earth that it may grow. Together, Amen. And it is so. Amen.
Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have had Reverend Kathy Long here with us before. We're very privileged to have her again. And I'm kind of jumping the gun. I'm jumping the gun because I'm going to let Augustus sing his solo. Then I'll come up and do this again. And I apologize first to you and to all of you.
God bless. Give us this day our daily bread. You said you would supply all my needs according to your riches. I have but to ask, and I shall receive. To go from here to share this love He gave to me, to show someone who's lost and help them find their way, the way to truth and faith, so they can be free like me. Free just like me. Lord, we need your love. Lord, we need your peace. Lord, we need your joy. This day. Thank you. Whoops.
That was fabulous. That was just fabulous. Okay, I'm going to try this again. Once again, we have Reverend Kathy Long with us. She was here not too long ago. She's going to be with us this week and next week for a two-part series. She was ordained as a Unity minister in 1989. So she knows. Besides all that, she's a teacher at Upland Hills Farm School in Oxford. I never asked you what grades.
But 9 and 10-year-olds in the morning and the whole school in the afternoon, whatever age shows up.
Thank you, God, for having me retire when I did. I thank Him every day for that. Anyway, she's a wife, she's a mother, she's a minister, she has 2 boys, and she's with us today. Please welcome Reverend Kathy Long.
Thank you so much, and it is a delight to be back with you. It's been a couple months maybe, and some of you said, are you going to do the third part to that series that you did before? No. and you know, a good reason for that is because let's be in the now, and so it doesn't matter when a person's ordained. Really, the learning is always about being in the now. And the ordination, or that experience of God in the now, is what we all long for. That's it, right? and to know that freedom that is in a consciousness of God. We feel that freedom when we are touching that consciousness of God that lives and moves and has its very being in us. So I give thanks for Unity because it was many years ago, my husband's grandmother invited me to a Unity service in Portland, Oregon, where I was living at that time. And I felt this freedom when I walked through the doors, that there was not a creed, and yet it was a place to honor all creeds. It was not a belief system that one had to agree to, and yet it was a practice of opening the mind and the heart and discovering oneness with God, and discovering on a daily basis, give us this day our daily bread, that the daily bread, the daily food, the spiritual understanding is always present. It's a discovery process, daily, momently. Well, how much more free can we feel with that? Actually, sometimes we don't feel free at all. We feel like, just give me the little black and white book. Tell me what to do so I can have what I want to have happen. And help me prevent all those experiences I really don't want to have happen. You see, so this freedom comes with a responsibility, an ability to respond to life. Responsibility, our ability to respond. And we go through a lot of experiences on a daily basis that we don't plan for. Am I right? Daily. Okay, so that now we're all on the same page, and let's get in and explore and discover. So for the next 2 weeks, I thought that we would do this. We would discover together and discover the ways in which that which we call God is at work in our lives. Okay? Because really, that's what spiritual community in my mind gives to us. I don't necessarily go to work and have this conversation with people at work. And we don't always have this type of conversation with our family members. But there are those of us, those among us, that are what Jesus said, this is my mother, this is my brother. These are the ones. We are a spiritual community. We are a spiritual family. And we are having this conversation about what it takes to show up momently on a daily basis with God. Okay. I was in the garbage shed this week with 2 young ones. I don't know what grade they are because we don't have grades. I think they're both about 12, 11, maybe 10 even. And we were in the garbage shed because it's right next to where the bus stops on the road. And so there's an overhang, you know, there's a roof. And it was that day that it was pouring. I don't know if that was Thursday or Friday, but it was just sheets of rain coming down. And so there we are, the 3 of us, and we're waiting for the bus. And this girl who's new to our school, and I'm getting to know her because every day I help with the bus part. And somehow it seemed like out of the blue or out of the clouds, she says to me, she says, it seems like a lot of the time I'm kind of like asleep, like I'm not really awake. And I said, well, that's interesting to me. I said, because many of the teachers that I've listened to over the years say that for the most part, we're on autopilot. I said, do you know what that means? You know, that so you can have an airplane and the pilot's there and the course is already set, I suppose, by computer systems nowadays, and the pilot doesn't have to have hands on the steering wheel of the plane. I don't know if they call it that. And it's on autopilot. And she said, yeah, like that. And I said, yeah. So it seems like a lot of what we're doing is to wake up so that we're not just on autopilot. And the other child that was there, this boy, said, yeah, he said, you know, it's like I'm tired a lot. So he's talking about his own experience, trying to relate to this conversation that we're having. Like, I'm tired a lot. I said, yeah. So autopilot, you might feel tired too, but it's not necessarily you're on autopilot because you're tired. But what does it take to be more awake, more really here and right now? And so the girl at that moment looks up and she says, I just love the sound of rain. It took me hours for me to catch on to what this young, wise teacher had just been giving me a lesson about. It was a beautiful sound. And we did share the fact that it was this beautiful sound on a tin roof, right? I've heard that before. What I didn't catch on was that this young person, maybe 11, maybe 12, had shifted in the conversation right into the now moment. It wasn't cerebral anymore. It wasn't thinking about being on autopilot, but it was experiencing this what was there to be experienced, which was sound and presence with each other. Well, it took me hours to realize that she had so quickly brought us right there. So I would say to you that we think that we're teachers of our young ones. And as Dr. Shefali Sabari would often say, our young ones are teaching us. They're so close. The veil is so thin. They're right there. But they also teach us through the many ways that just grab our attention. Am I correct? So another experience that I had this week, I was out in the forest with the children, and there's this little area that they started calling Woodville. It's just trees and dirt. And they build these little structures and they dig deep and they call it the clay mine, and sometimes they elect a mayor, and their commodity is bark. Bark. And so they call their bark their money, and they have a bank and they have a banker, and eventually they start feeling like there's not enough bark. Can you relate? Okay, so they were increasingly having this experience out there that there was not enough bark. And one day I'm in the kitchen, it's lunch recess, I'm getting my lunch together, and one of them comes in and says, it's not going well in Woodville. Not going well. There's a riot. People are trashing their buildings. We're talking sticks now, sticks. So, okay, well, we'll have a Woodville meeting at lunchtime. Like about 3, 4, 5 minutes later, another one comes in. Not going well in Woodville. So I thought, all right, turn off the burner. I go out to Woodville. There's a riot. One boy who's new to the school is, start a war, start a war. I mean, is this the mentality that these children are living in? Okay, so this makes sense. You can see a lot of what children have exposed to when you watch them play, because they're just doing what we do. They're using the words we use. They're playing out what we're doing in real life, supposedly. Although Lily Tomlin says, reality is just a set of thoughts about a real big hunch about life. This is Lily Tomlin playing the bag lady. Remember when she used to be the black? So as the bag lady, this is her version of what reality is. So there I am in their reality, which is Woodville, and start a war. And so, like, wow, I mean, they're crazy. There's like about 10 of them. They're running all around. They're mad. They're angry. And I'm trying to talk, and I finally just yelled out, be quiet. And they did. And they did. And I thought, okay, so what are we going to do? I'm in that now moment. I'm the adult. I'm the teacher. I've got quiet. What do we do now? And this is what I want to explore today. You see, because a lot of times this is life. I'm on the phone having a conversation with my mom, and she goes into politics again. This is not good territory for us. She has said, I think we need to stop talking again. Okay, Mom, we'll stop talking. Okay. And it's those kind of moments, and you're thinking, well, what do you say? Okay, because she's gone into politics again. What do you say? Okay, Mom. you know, when you say that, then I think that you're, no, I'm just trying to say, okay, Mom, you know. But what do we do in those moments where you can feel the friction, right? And you can even pause, you can get it quiet for a little bit, and then what do you do? How do we in the now moment access wisdom? How do we handle life on life's terms? Meaning that we're willing to go to that Thanksgiving dinner again and so is going to show up and we're going to, all right? Okay? Or we're going to go to church meeting number 57, or maybe it's 157, and we're going to deal with that kind of stuff again. You know, so we just learn that we can show up for life. We can show up for the dinners, we can show up for the meetings, we can show up for the relationships, and there's a wisdom, and that's freedom. That's freedom. To know that we can go into any and all circumstances, and there will be a wisdom to guide us. That we can show up at the doctor's appointment, and the doctor will say whatever the doctor's going to say. Or it'll be the physician's assistant probably that's going to say something. Or maybe it'll be the nurse, or maybe with some variation on a theme, but somebody will have an opinion, and we are going to, in that moment, have our opportunity to tap into wisdom. So how do we do that? Discovery. I started thinking about how we feel that wisdom, and my husband Matthew, who's a real Bible scholar, he started talking about Elijah, the prophet in the Old Testament. And you've probably heard this story before because it's so powerful to help us understand how we touch that wisdom. So Elijah's been in this big war fight. You know, it wasn't Woodville variety, it was probably the real variety. But anyway, he's made it out of this horrible war, and he's on the run because the other leader is thinking, get that guy, get that Elijah. We got to get him. So he's on the run, and he had followed wisdom going into this battle. This would be kind of like some of us going to Thanksgiving dinner, and you're thinking, how's this going to go? So he's followed wisdom, he's gone into this battle, and he actually did pretty good, but this upset other people, so that should sound familiar to some of you also. This happens. And now he's on the run, because now he's got fear. It's fear. So he's running. And biblically it says in 1 Kings that he's on the run for 40 days. And we know that biblically, language and stories, these are all teaching stories. Are they literal? Are they black and white? Probably not. Are they related to something that happened historically? Probably. And 40 in the culture of that time was to indicate the time that it takes. So he's on the run for 40 years. Now, that could be 40 microseconds for you and me, standing in Woodville, or dealing with Mom on the phone, or trying to figure out with my husband if we can negotiate about something that we're going to spend money on. 40 microseconds, the time that it takes to access wisdom. And so Elijah finds a cave, he's been hungry, all these things, he's praying, and then he's waiting to hear God. And in this beautiful passage, I know there's been songs written about it, it does not come in the strong wind. It does not come in the earthquake. It does not come in fire. But it comes as a still, small voice. I often have turned to these words. What does that mean, this still, small voice? In A Course in Miracles, there's reference to a holy instant. An instant. It's that moment. It's that moment where sometimes we almost feel like words come through that weren't really our words. That we found our ability to say or do something that seems almost beyond what our emotional charge is. But there it is. It's a still, small voice. And often that still, small voice is calming to the situation. So that we can almost notice the energy coming through that still small voice has this capacity to calm us and thereby calm others around us. And it might be saying nothing. My mother worked on the streets in downtown Portland, Oregon. She is a Vista volunteer. She worked with low income and homeless, creating a literacy project. And it was not uncommon for people on drugs and quite crazy to come into the bridge school, they called it. And that happened one day, kind of late in the day. And she found within herself just kind of a knowing to stand there in front of this large man and just to put her hands like this in a passive gesture. And the person was vacillating in words but then calmed and left. And I just remember this sometimes, with children that are so upset. We can just put our hands like this. You can see how we can do that in many situations, to go to that still small voice and bring it right through the body. There are examples, I think, of how we can access this, and yet the examples that I found for you today start with Jesus. And how did Jesus access wisdom when everything's calm? Because I really want to emphasize that. I think of myself more and more, and I saw Jerry over here today and had the privilege of getting to know Jerry out at the Blue Water Church in Port Huron when I served there as a mentor, and to support that congregation going through time of transition between ministers. And the calm times, and as I think of myself today as an emissary of a next evolution of unity, the calm times are where we go to the mountaintop. It's what Jesus did in the calm times. So that in the calm times, we are diligent and dedicated and consistent in our practice with prayer and meditation. Because we could walk out the door and immediately be in chaos, right? The animals have overturned the compost bucket on my back porch. That trigger could lead me to a lousy day. Or that practice of, in the calm times, going and touching or being touched, really, by the still small voice can allow me to reframe what's happening, okay? Another example, what about the wisdom that we can access in confrontation? How many of you have experienced confrontation at work, confrontation at home? Even in our spiritual communities, our ministries, we experience confrontation. It still to this day dumbfounds me when people think that they will come to church and they will not find the challenges that are happening in the world in church. But churches are made of people. And so we bring with us all of our experiences, including whether we are going in the calm times to be touched by wisdom or not. We bring this into our communities. And so how do we access wisdom in confrontation? Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane during the time of greatest confrontation before he was crucified. Notice he goes to the mountaintop metaphorically in the times of calm, but in the times of great stress and duress, he's in the graveyard. Don't we feel like that sometimes? And in that experience, when the disciples are to stay awake, but they fall asleep, of course, and then they wake up, and here comes the priests, and they've come in with their helpers, and the helper has a sword. And one of the disciples then comes in with his sword and cuts off a part of the ear of this helper to the priest. And what does Jesus say in those circumstances? Put your sword back, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. When we are in situations of confrontation, when we really want to strike out, that will literally harm our own self. And so the message of Jesus, who represents for us the spiritual master teacher, the Christ teacher, what do we do in confrontation? He has the ear put back on. heals the situation. We are to find our point of healing. I heard a story recently of somebody that every time they went to work, there was another issue of communications, lack of communications, confrontation around communications. And then this person decided it was so upsetting on this particular day that they would just go home, they would take the day off, go home and try to touch that wisdom. And in that intentional space of wanting to touch the wisdom of God, was doing some spiritual reading and saw this concept that came from Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist teacher, who says when you encounter the person that constantly brings up stuff for you, rename that person in your mind. Make them the guru. Make them the teacher. And this individual realized, instead of pulling away, instead of separating from this one person at the place of employment that was so disturbing, by calling that person the teacher, started to have compassion, started to reconnect, started to remember the fact that that employer had been in the hospital that week with a spouse who was having surgery, started putting a different picture around it, but it was because of the reconnection, like Jesus putting that bit of the ear back on. You see? So contacting wisdom within us is something that we can do and make a practice of. Instead of going into separation consciousness, how can we move back in, knowing and believing and trusting that there is a wisdom for us? And my last example is, what do we do in storms? The wisdom that is available to us in storms. Because sometimes we feel like we haven't said the right words, or we've said all the right words, and even in that situation, things get worse. With my young ones there at Woodville, be quiet. And then I said, we're going back to the room. I'm walking back to the room. What do I say now? And get back into the room. Get your lunches out. Yeah, have a little food. Let's get a little calmer here. And then let's have a Woodville meeting. So that they could hear each other. You see? So the wisdom that we access in storms often is, as Jesus did when the disciples woke him up in the boat in the middle of a storm, Jesus rebuked the storm. Be quiet. That's what I did in Woodville. Sometimes we have to do that with our very own self. We have to say to ourselves this stuff that's going inside, be quiet. I will not participate in this. I will turn my mind to truth. And the truth is that I am one with wisdom. I cannot be where wisdom is not. That everywhere I go, I am an expression of wisdom. Do you feel the power and convictions that we have within us to be in truth? And when I find that that is not enough to say to myself, I will not participate in this inner conversation, fear has no place here, then I turn to my brothers and sisters in my spiritual community. And I ask them, remind me of the truth. I don't ask them to be a doormat for me to tell the story for the umpteenth time. I've already told myself I'm stopping that. But collectively, we in our communities, this community, is in the midst of transition and has the opportunity to learn, to really put into practice these spiritual ideas and principles. This is what the Fillmores saw all those years ago, that this would be practical Christianity, not a shrine to what it means to live Christianity in the Christ-centered life, but in fact to be in the now moment, in the present moment, and accessing that wisdom in the storms, in the trials, in the confrontations, and in the calm times. So let's be about that. Next week, Discovery Part 2, we will explore what it takes to put wisdom into action. Yeah.
It is my turn, right? At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do our tithes and offerings. You take your envelope. And on the back, let's repeat together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Now it's your turn.
Do you have a pen? Something to write? Thank you.
I've got a couple of people helping me out today. And you guys are welcome to help me out also. I'm going to sing one of you guys' favorite songs. I'm sure it is. Just a closer walk with thee.
Just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk with thee.
Granted, Jesus, if you please.
Just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk with thee.
Daily walking close with thee.
Just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer
Let
walk with
it
thee.
be, dear Lord, let it be.
Just a closer walk with thee.
I am weak, but thou art strong.
Just a closer walk with thee. Just a closer walk with thee.
Jesus, keep me from all
Just a closer walk with thee.
wrong.
Just a closer walk with thee.
I'll be satisfied as
Just a closer walk with thee.
long
Just a closer walk with thee.
as I walk. Let me walk close to
Closer
thee.
walk with thee. Just a closer walk with thee.
Thank you, God.
All right, we always have such a good time. Reverend Long, would you bless our offering for us, please?
So we know that these gifts are given with love and willingness. And so we see these gifts freed by love and willingness to be about a work of service through this ministry. This is the bounty of God, and we send it forth with wisdom and with joy. Amen.
Amen. Do we have any first-time visitors here today? Yes? No? If you don't want to identify yourself, please sign our guest book outside the door there. We're going to close our service with our peace song. And as Greg explained last week, and we're putting into practice, we're just going to close the aisles, okay? We're not going to close the room with a circle. We're just going to move to the center and do our peace song from there.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Let's turn around.
Turn around.
Now there is peace on earth, and let every God with peace. Now there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Now peace begins with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth and let us be one with The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Don. Yeah. It's good to be here with you again.